I walked away from a career everyone respected. What I didn't expect was how often people from my old office would ask if I regretted it, or why they needed the answer. From the outside, it looked perfect. A job with a real office. A title that sounded like something your uncle would brag about at Christmas. Full benefits, steady salary, a name-brand company people actually recognized. The kind of thing that makes your parents stop worrying about you. That shuts down the "so what do you do?" questions at weddings. But from the inside, it was something else entirely. The building was sleek, all glass and brushed steel, and it smelled like too much ambition. Not coffee, not paper, just tension. Everyone walked fast, talked faster, and smiled with their teeth, not their eyes. My first day, I remember thinking, maybe this is just the adjustment period. I was wrong. It never adjusted. It just tightened. Meetings started at 8, but you were expected to show up early. Unspoken rule. If you came in on time, you were already behind. Lunch breaks? Optional. And by optional, I mean they did not exist. People ate at their desks, if they ate at all. There was a guy on my floor who kept a drawer full of protein shakes, said chewing wasted time. It was not one big, dramatic thing. No screaming bosses or public breakdowns. That would have made it easier to spot. It was smaller than that. Subtle, quietly relentless, like being eroded instead of crushed. You would open your laptop at home just to finish one thing, and then somehow find yourself still working past midnight. You would miss birthdays, cancel plans, tell yourself it was just a phase, that things would slow down. But they never did. What really got me, though, were the smiles. The way people smiled while saying things that left bruises. A manager once told me, "You are doing great, just not quite leadership material yet." Said it with a chuckle, like it was some inside joke I was too slow to get. Another time, a colleague offered to help with a project, then later presented the entire thing as their own. When I brought it up, my boss nodded and said, "Let it go. It is not worth causing waves." You start thinking maybe it is you. Maybe you are too sensitive, not built for this world. So you try harder. You answer emails faster, take on more, not even when something inside you screams no. And every time someone crosses a line, you just move the line. I used to be sharp, curious, the kind of guy who asked questions just to understand how things worked. After a year there, I could barely hold a thought that was not about a deadline or a deliverable. But I stayed. For a while, I stayed. I told myself it was what adults do. Then something happened that changed everything. It started with a tremor in my right hand. Not a dramatic shake, just a twitch, subtle enough to ignore. I figured it was too much coffee or maybe bad sleep. But then it happened again and again, always while typing, always during a stretch of back-to-back deadlines. At some point, I looked down and realized I was clenching my jaw so hard that my teeth ached. I was doing it in my sleep, too. Woke up one morning with a sore face and a mouthguard cracked clean through. Still, I told myself it was fine. Everyone was tired. Everyone was stressed. I watched a guy across from me, Grant, in finance, pass out during a call, just slumped over in his chair mid-sentence. Paramedics wheeled him out while our manager told us, "Let's give him space, but keep things moving." Nobody even paused the meeting. That should have been the moment I saw it clearly. But I didn't leave. Instead, I lowered the bar. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped calling friends back. I let texts pile up and ignored my own birthday. It's just a season, I told myself. Push through it. Eventually, I stopped feeling much of anything at all. You would think when your body starts giving out, that would be the wake-up call. But when you are deep in it, when you have convinced yourself that quitting means failure, you do not even recognize the signs for what they are. You just keep going until you break. And that break came, not with a big collapse, but with a spreadsheet. One of those reports that made no sense, thrown together last minute by someone else, but handed off to me for cleanup. "You are great with detail," they said. What they meant was, you do the grunt work. It was late, nearly midnight. I had been staring at the same column for 20 minutes and realized I could not remember my own password. Not the one for the system. The one for my bank. The one I used for 10 years. That moment scared me. Because it was not just forgetfulness. It felt like something had gone dim inside me. Like I had been running on fumes for so long that my brain finally flickered and said, "No more." Still, I stayed another 3 weeks. I went into work the next day like nothing had happened. Because that is how this kind of place works. It teaches you to ignore yourself. Teaches you that pain is just a productivity issue. But something was shifting. And soon, I would reach the point where even pretending was no longer possible. It was a Friday afternoon when they called me into a side meeting. Not my usual manager. This time it was one of the directors, plus HR. The email had no subject line, just a calendar block, quick sync, 2 p.m. That phrase alone made my stomach turn. At this company, quick syncs were never quick and never good. They had that practiced calm tone people use when they are about to drop something heavy, but want you to feel like it is just business. The director leaned forward and said, "We want to talk about expanding your scope." He smiled like it was a compliment. Like this was an opportunity. I waited. I knew the catch was coming. They were restructuring, he said. A few teams had merged, and I would be taking on new responsibilities. Not a promotion. No raise. Just more work. Different title, sure, but the same paycheck. They used words like strategic trust and leadership potential like confetti. I asked how many people I would be managing now. The answer? Technically none, but we see you as a leader. Classic. I sat there staring at the corner of the conference table, already feeling the pressure settle in my chest. Then came the real ask. They needed me to cancel my upcoming vacation. A week I had booked months ago. Flights paid. Airbnb reserved. It was just me planning to drive down the coast alone. No big destination, just time to breathe. But they needed me here. "We are counting on your commitment," they said. That was the line. Not because the vacation was important, but because I had nothing left to give. Nothing. I was not sleeping. My eye twitched when I was tired, which was always. My memory was shot. I kept a sticky note on my monitor just to remember to drink water. And now they wanted me to cancel the one thing I had been holding on to? I did not speak. I just nodded and walked out. Not angrily. Not even surprised. Just empty. That night, I sat on the edge of my bathtub fully clothed, staring at the floor. Not crying. Not thinking. Just still. And the stillness felt better than anything I had felt in months. The next morning, I woke up early. I made coffee. I looked out the window, and for once, I did not reach for my phone. I sat there with the mug in my hands and said it out loud, just once. I am done. That was the decision. No rage. No dramatic resignation speech. No going out in a blaze of glory. Just quiet certainty. I sent the email 2 days later. And the moment I hit send, I exhaled in a way I did not know I had been holding. The real challenge came after. See, quitting sounds dramatic, but in real life, it is quieter than people think. You pack up your things. You wipe your laptop. You hand in your badge. Someone from HR gives you a half-hearted smile and says, "Best of luck." And then, nothing. No parade. No final applause. You just walk out of a building and realize the noise is gone. And so are the walls that told you who you were. The first morning I woke up without that job, I just sat there. The sun was coming through the blinds, and for once I did not have 10 Slack messages or a calendar stuffed like a hoarder's garage. It should have felt amazing. Freedom, right? But it felt strange. I did not know what to do with myself. My whole identity had been built around being dependable. The one who showed up. The one who handled it. And now I was just a guy in sweatpants staring at a half-eaten bowl of cereal at 11 in the morning. I started freelancing at first. Small contracts. Design work, strategy decks, anything that paid. I even helped someone's cousin set up an online shop for hand-poured candles. It was humbling in a good way. The kind of work nobody claps for, but it was honest. Then I started building something of my own. Nothing flashy. Just a small project, helping nonprofits digitize their systems. No big pitch decks or VC dreams. Just usefulness. And I began to feel like myself again. Not the version of me that got buried under corporate lingo and 60-hour weeks, but the version I remembered from before all that. The guy who actually liked building things, even if no one noticed. The money was not the same. The prestige definitely was not. Nobody looked impressed when I said I was self-employed. People would tilt their heads and say things like, "Oh, so you are still figuring it out?" I would smile and say something like that. But inside, I knew this was the first time in years I had not hated myself. That silence I used to dread, it became a kind of peace. I started taking walks. I stopped checking my email every 5 minutes. I called old friends and actually listened. My hands stopped shaking. My chest did not feel like a fist anymore. But of course, that is when the comments started. The kind that sneak up on you, disguised as care. And one of them, someone from the old job, was about to knock the wind out of me. It was Nate, of course, the guy who used to sit 2 desks over from me. Always wore those slim-fit dress shirts like he was waiting to be promoted into a newer version of himself. I ran into him at a coffee shop downtown, some sleek place I normally avoided because the lattes cost more than lunch. He spotted me in line and lit up like we were old war buddies. "Man, look at you," he said, giving me one of those hugs that is more shoulder bump than embrace. "What have you been up to? Heard you left the team." I told him I had. I kept it simple. Said I was freelancing, doing my own thing. He raised his eyebrows in that way people do when they are trying to hide judgment behind curiosity. Then came the words I had already heard too many times. "So, do you think you'll get a real job again?" There it was. That word. Real. I gave a little laugh. Not because it was funny, but because I needed a second to keep my jaw from locking up. I said something like, "This is real enough for me." He nodded, took a sip of his golden foamed drink, and said, "No, totally, man. I get it. Must be nice to take some time off." Then he added, "Honestly, I wish I could just pause everything too. Recharge. Like I was on vacation. Like I had stepped away from the grind because I could afford to chill, not because I was drowning in it." He kept talking, some update about the new VP, the roadmap, how they were getting catered lunches again. I smiled, nodded, played along. But inside, I felt something turn. It was not anger. It was not jealousy. It was that old voice again. The one that asks if maybe you did mess up. If maybe leaving was the easy way out. If maybe everyone else is just stronger than you. That voice always comes back when you least expect it. Later that night, I checked my bank account, then my calendar, then my inbox. I caught myself trying to measure my worth in numbers again, like I had not learned anything at all. But then I looked around my apartment, saw the bookshelf I had finally put up, the dishes I had actually washed, the journal I had started keeping, even if it felt awkward at first. And I remembered, I did not leave because I was weak. I left because I had been disappearing. Nate was wrong about something, though. I did not pause my life. I restarted it. A couple months went by. The noise died down. The emails stopped. People moved on, like they always do. But then one day, out of nowhere, I got a message from Tori. She had been on my team. Sharp, ambitious, the kind of person who somehow made 12-hour days look effortless. Her message popped up in my inbox like a ghost from another life. "Hey, heard you're out doing your own thing. Would love to catch up." We met at a bar that catered to tech folks. Low lighting, fake wood, overpriced drinks with names like Founder's Fuel. I got there early and sat at the far end, sipping water because I did not feel like explaining that I had cut back on drinking. She arrived in heels and confidence, hugged me like we were still part of the same tribe. "You look relaxed," she said. I just smiled, trying to be. She told me everything that had changed, new leadership, a reorg, the same pressure just in different packaging. She leaned in and whispered, "Honestly, you were smart to get out when you did." But then her tone shifted. She asked if I had any plans to go back. "You know," she said, "get back into the real world." That phrase again. I asked her what she meant by real. She laughed. "You know, salaries, performance reviews, strategy decks, the usual chaos." I told her I was doing work that felt solid. I was sleeping. I had time to think. Time to live. She nodded, but I could tell it did not register. Not really. Then she said it. I guess not everyone's built for the pressure. Nothing wrong with that. It was not meant to sting, but it did, because it confirmed what I already knew they thought, that I had quit because I could not handle it, that I was one of the ones who cracked, that leaving was failure, dressed up as freedom. I just nodded, told her it was good seeing her, and it was, in a way, it reminded me why I left. Not just for peace, but to stop living in a world where burnout was worn like a badge, and health was a casualty of ambition. She hugged me goodbye and said, "Let me know if you ever want a referral," as if I would come crawling back. That night, I walked home under a sky full of quiet stars. I passed a bakery that smelled like warm bread. Someone's dog barked from a balcony above me. The world felt real, not in the way they meant it. Not spreadsheets and strategy, but in the way that mattered. And still, that little voice whispered, "Maybe you are falling behind." I did not answer it, because I knew something was coming, something I had not expected at all. It came in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. No warning, just a ping in my inbox with a subject line that read, "Opportunity to reconnect." At first, I thought it was spam, but then I saw the sender's name. Jonas, my old manager. The same guy who once said burnout was just a mindset problem. The email was short, polished, said they were building something new. A lean, elite team with room for innovation and autonomy. He had heard I was available and thought I might be a good fit for this next phase. The tone was friendly, too friendly, like we had not spent 2 years locked in a quiet war over boundaries and deadlines. I stared at it for a long time. My first reaction was disbelief, then suspicion. Why now? Why me? I reread the line. Let me know if you are open to talking. I was not sure if it was bait or flattery, but curiosity got the better of me. I replied, asked for a call, just to hear it out. We spoke that Friday. He jumped right in, said he admired the way I had taken time to reset, called it bold, brave, said he had always respected my tenacity. I almost laughed. This was the same man who once told me that rest is for weekends. The same man who had watched me fall apart without blinking. Now he wanted to bring me back? I need someone I can trust, he said. Someone who knows the terrain but thinks differently now. He dropped the number. It was more than I had ever made. By a lot. It would fix a lot of things. Pay off debt. Give me breathing room. I told him I would think about it. And I did. For 2 nights, I barely slept. My mind kept flipping back and forth. Was this redemption? A sign I was not forgotten? Or just the same trap, polished and reframed? I imagined what people would say if I took it. That I had finally come to my senses. That I was back on track. But deep down, something did not feel right. Because this was not a door opening. It was the same hallway I had already escaped, painted a new color. And I knew if I went back, I would disappear again. I turned it down. I wrote the email late at night, after sitting on my balcony for hours, just listening to the quiet hum of the city. No music, no distractions, just me, the night air, and the sound of my own heartbeat. I thanked him for the offer, told him I respected the gesture, but said clearly, I am not coming back. He replied fast. One line, understood. Doors open if you change your mind. And just like that, it was done. Or so I thought. The fallout started within days. It was not dramatic. It was subtle, like everything else in that world. A LinkedIn message from a former coworker. A comment under a photo I had posted of my tiny workspace. Just a laptop, a mug, and a cat on the windowsill. You'll be back. We all come back eventually. Another message. That kind of money doesn't knock twice. Hope you're not romanticizing burnout. Even my mom called. She meant well. She always does. But her voice cracked when she said, Are you sure this freelancing thing is enough? You worked so hard. I told her I was sure. I lied. I was not. But I was learning something important. When you stop chasing the same things everyone else is chasing, people do not know what to do with you. You become a mirror they do not like looking into. They confuse your peace for failure, your boundaries for fear, your stillness for being lost. But I was not lost. I was building something. It just did not look the way they expected. No title, no team, no LinkedIn update that made people jealous. Just honest work, done slowly, with care, with room to breathe. But still, that pressure crept in, like smoke through the vents. And then came the dinner, a get-together with a few old colleagues. I figured it would be harmless. Catching up, a few drinks, some laughs. But midway through the meal, one of them, Eli, who used to sit across from me, tilted his glass and said, You were one of the smart ones, man. But I gotta admit, I thought you'd be running something by now. You had VP written all over you. Everyone laughed like it was a compliment. But it wasn't. Because what he meant was, you had potential, and you wasted it. I smiled. I nodded. I said nothing. But inside, something was shifting. Not doubt. Not shame. Something stronger. Something that would carry me through what came next. A few weeks later, I landed a small client with a local nonprofit. Nothing glamorous. No glossy branding. No keynote speeches or venture capital. Just a quiet office in a neighborhood most people ignored, run by a woman named June who wore beat-up sneakers and kept a coffee machine older than I was. They needed help streamlining their donation tracking. Everything was on paper, half of it handwritten, stuffed in old file folders that smelled like dust and time. It was a mess, and I loved it. Every fix was visible. Every change actually mattered. When I finished building a clean system for them, June hugged me so tight I nearly dropped my laptop. She said, You saved us. And I believed her. Later that night, I walked home in the cold, bundled in a hoodie I had not worn in months. My inbox was empty. My phone was quiet. There was no bonus, no press release, no one waiting to tell me I had done well. but I slept better than I had in years. Somewhere around midnight, I got a text from someone I had not heard from in a while. Nate again. Just saw your name in that community newsletter. Did not expect that. Guess you really went full soft launch, huh? I stared at it for a minute, then typed. I went full human. No reply. I left it there. Because here is the thing nobody tells you. When you stop proving yourself to people who are not watching for the right reasons, everything changes. I had spent years building an identity around being seen, around being impressive, around being respected by people I did not even like. Now I was starting over. My apartment was smaller. My clothes were older. My bank account was not impressive. But I laughed more. I ate real meals. I read books without checking the time. I felt things again. I was not winning in the way people defined it. But I was not losing either. I was living. And I knew, deep in my bones, that this version of success, it was mine. But there was still one more thing I needed to face. One more voice I had not silenced yet. It was a random Thursday when I ran into my father at the grocery store. I had not seen him in months. Maybe longer. He looked older, thinner, still in his usual button-down tucked too tight into jeans that had not fit comfortably since the early 90s. He spotted me near the checkout line, one hand holding a basket of frozen dinners and discount vitamins. Still doing that online work thing? He asked. No, hello. I nodded. Yeah, doing all right. He gave a half smile. Your mom says you're working out of your apartment now. I could hear it in his voice, that quiet disappointment people try to mask with polite words. That same old question wrapped in small talk. Why did you walk away from the serious path? We stood there for a second, neither of us reaching for more. Then he said it. You always had potential. Shame you stepped off the track. I almost let it go. Almost. But I didn't. I looked him in the eye and said, calm as anything. I didn't step off. I just stopped letting it run me over. He blinked. No reply. I paid for my groceries. Walked out. The sky was cloudy, but the air felt sharp, fresh. That conversation, it used to be the one I feared most. The one that kept me gripping a desk at 2 in the morning, chasing titles, swallowing resentment. But now, it rolled off me. Because I finally understood something no one had taught me back then. Real work is not the kind that drains you to the bone for someone else's praise. It is not the kind that demands your health, your identity, your weekends, and calls it ambition. Real work is the kind you can carry without disappearing. It is the kind that lets you sleep at night, not just collapse. The kind that makes you human again. And even if they do not get it, your coworkers, your friends, your father, it does not matter. Because you will get it. You will feel it. And once you do, you will never unlearn the freedom that comes from choosing yourself.